All right, what's up? It's your boy Illwin, and we are live on the No Tea, No Shade show on KFAI. And I am joined by one of the members of Atmosphere, Slug. What's poppin'?
What's up, man? Everything's popping. You know, man, I heard a rumor that Minneapolis was just nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. That's crazy popping. I don't even know what to make of that because, of course, on one hand, I can, like the skeptic and the conspiracy theorist in me sees that as somehow a manipulative tool, but the other side of me is also like, or maybe not manipulative, but like performative, right? But the other side of me is like, hell yeah. Like the fact that maybe just even that rumor can get this situation on the radar of, people who don't pay a lot of attention to their phones and are more like paying attention to the world through mass media, things of that nature, you feel me? Where they're not always being fed the details, but they're just kind of getting the headlines, And so for that, if that's a real headline, like I literally just seen it before me and you started this interview. And so I got to kind of dig in and see if that's a real headline or not. But that's popping. Otherwise, besides that, just on a personal level, I'm on tour. Yesterday was the midpoint of this tour. So I'm basically halfway home, which is crazy because yesterday I was actually in Minneapolis. So to be halfway home while standing in my home is crazy.
That's what's up. How was that Minneapolis show?
The show was good. It was at least for me, it was valuable for me. I needed that. I needed to feel that. I'd been on the road for the majority of the melee. I was home when they murdered Renee and we left a few days later. So right before I left, instead of packing a bug out bag for my family, I packed a bug out truck and was just like, look, don't even unlock this truck and get in it unless it's time to go. And so I got to go home yesterday and just kind of look it over and see if there are any items that needed to be added. Uh, um, But with that said, I've been watching everything else that has happened since then, because we left right after they killed Renee. So I packed the truck and got on the bus and then left my family at home with the truck. And so it's like I've been watching all of this through my phone, just like the rest of the country, you feel me? And not just my phone, but also talking to my people back home and just trying to keep my mind on what I can do to be helpful from out here. But getting to go home and have that show was really good for me. And I can only hope that it was good for others as well, to just have a little bit of a moment to come together and just try to shake your ass a little bit, have a little bit of, they say joy is an act of resistance, you feel me? So I'm just hoping that people got to come out and have an experience that was valuable for them. I know all the artists, we all had a lot to say. It was one of them shows where everybody had to speak up a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, and we've been speaking up the whole tour every night, but the Minneapolis show was extra. Like everybody had something to say that night, you feel me? And it was really, I think it was good for the people in that show to come and see that, of course you expect Atmosphere's got something to say, but to be able to see these other artists from other places in the country share their view on what they have been witnessing from their phones, you feel me? Like I feel like that was good. So all in all, it was a good show. Obviously, it could have been a better show under different circumstances. If all this stuff was not as dire as it is, but with what we had to work with, I think we did our best. And ultimately, we tried to make sure that the people understood that this was about them. And it's not really about the people on the stage, but it's about the people that came together to have this experience together and making sure they can understand that we see them, that we hear them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was necessarily the therapy that the city needs, because it's a big city and you can only fit 1,500 people in that room, you feel me? So I think that, the city needs a much larger moment of joy and togetherness that can come. So hopefully you know, after everybody has an opportunity to process all this, maybe there'll be like a nice big barbecue or something that we could have at the end. You feel me? Like I am very I'll tell you what, man, my first week out here, it was doom and gloom, you know, and then they murdered Alex, and then they murdered somebody out in Cali, and you know, it's just like this is going to continue happening. This is not, Minneapolis is not a what's the word? It's not an outlier. It's this is what it is now. And I feel like people need to really pay attention to how communities are dealing with this so that they can pick up on the mistakes as well as the advantages of what these communities can show, so that they can move and react accordingly when it's their turn. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's an interesting time, you know, and it's crazy too, because it's like, you're seeing all these people who are like, oh my God, it's this is so bad. And it's just like, you know, there's a lot to unpack there. And the internet's doing it for me, so I don't have to necessarily speak on it too much. But, you know, I'm just doing my best to try to remind people who might not be, you know, cognizant of the big picture, which is that there are communities here who have been dealing with this for hundreds of years. You feel me? Now, yeah. It's showing up in your neighborhood, and it's happening to your neighbors. And so now you're waking up to it, and it's like, good, wake up to this, but also pay the respect to those communities who've been dealing with this forever, because they have methods. They have learned how to live in that environment and prosper, or even at the least find joy in that environment. And so it's like, so learn how to fight back, learn how to protect yourself, but also learn how to have that duality of your anger and your frustration, but make sure it's also backed by your joy and your hope, because otherwise it's exactly what it's supposed to be. They're going to burn you out. They're going to fatigue you. You know what I'm saying? If you don't go recharge your batteries every so often. Man, this is not where I was anticipating this conversation going. So I apologize. I apologize for the detours, you feel me? But
I appreciate that. And that's something I really enjoyed about your show, seeing you live and everybody else on the bill. I love that y'all spoke up about that. And I love how you made everybody in the audience feel like community, turning to our neighbor, you know what I'm saying? Saying good things to each other, and you speaking up, using your platform for good. So I think that's amazing. And everything you said, I rock with 100%.
I appreciate that. You know, it's like I'm just a rapper. Granted, I'm an old rapper, and I've been doing this for a long time. And so that does give me a vantage point of like, look, I've been a conspiracy theorist for over 40 years. You know, I've been taking in this stuff. And granted, yes, I you know, some of it is on the edge of like, you know, what a regular person might consider to be crazy talk. But it's like, look, the last 10 years have been reinforcing to us that we were not wrong. We seen all this coming in the 80s, in the 90s, you know what I'm saying? And we've been speaking to this forever. So I do think it's important that people find that space in culture to be open to information. You don't have to believe everything. You shouldn't believe everything that you breathe, but you should consider and process these ideas that are brought to the table, specifically by the people who've been paying a lot of attention for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like, and so in a weird way, even though I'm not the most educated or even articulate, I have been paying attention for a long time. So I am an elder in the room at this point. You know what I'm saying? And so I do appreciate having that space and that platform. And I just have to figure out, you know, how to apply my voice or when to use my platform to spotlight another voice, to speak up, somebody who might be a little stronger at articulation or better at making sure that this information can be received by the listener, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you need to give yourself a little bit more credit too. You are a very powerful voice, you know what I'm saying? and you are the blueprint for a lot of independent rappers like myself. So I think when you speak, it goes a long way, and what you do has a huge impact. And I just wanted to let you know that I had to keep it real.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm not very good with compliments. All my friends tell me that I suck at it, and so I do my best. And so, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. But in the same breath, I know that I'm still learning. I'm still figuring it out as we go.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I use this metaphor of the perfect song. Like as a songwriter, you want to figure out how to write the perfect song. But the caveat is you want to figure out how to write the perfect song before you die, because you're not going to write it today. And you're not going to write it tomorrow. You're just going to keep writing songs and building those muscles until you can get to it. And so for me, it's no different. I just want to be a great human. You feel me? And I know I'm not. I was born into an environment that didn't allow for greatness, let's say. And so it's just a long path to get to that point of being an incredible human being before I die. You know what I'm saying? And then as long as you kind of put your thoughts and your energies into that, then I think that no matter what, you're on the right path. You're going to make mistakes. People are not always going to see you in the light you wish they saw you in. And you have to navigate all that, because even that is a part of how to become a great human being,
Like, I'm not just trying to give you a bunch of compliments, but I really applaud your consistency. That's something that stands out to me the most. And I seen an interview you did, and you spoke about like being an artist and your children potentially being an artist one day, and your opinions on that. And you were saying like, if it's not what you want, I don't want that for you, because this is a bunch of heartbreak. But if you want this, come get this heartbreak. So I guess my question is, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you stay consistent while dealing with the heartbreak?
For me, it's all about gratitude, man. As long as you can stay in a space where you realize and understand that you have the opportunity to live outside of the guidelines and the normalcies that have been put there for us to fit into, in order to fit into the larger labor mechanism that has been created, right? You wake up, you go to work, then you come home, and you basically prepare your body and brain for going to work again tomorrow. That's what they want in this business of the United States of America. And so as an artist, you have an opportunity to live outside of that, and to, you could jokingly call it self-employed or whatever you want. I actually joke about how I actually, instead of having one boss, I've got like a million little bosses, you feel me? And I have to listen to all of their complaints and frustrations and disappointments, as well as the compliments. But knowing that I have this opportunity to live this life that is not inside of that normalized box, I have to commit to that. And I have to try to make sure that, as radical as I get to live through my job, I want to also live that radical in my life as well. I want to make sure that I'm doing the things that can interrupt the process, that can interrupt the larger, labor complex. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I feel like, to me, having that kind of gratitude or even humility to know like, hey, I'm really fortunate to be in this situation. Like, yes, I worked really hard to get here, but I know people that worked really, really hard just to make $16 an hour driving a truck. You feel me? It's like, we all work really hard, all of us. And so that's not, that I can't just be like, well, I earned this or I deserve this. I know that this was about timing, placement, good luck, you know what I'm saying? And so I view all that as just fortunate. And so I just try to stay in that space where as much as I can, I'm grateful, but also that I model what that gratitude is supposed to look like, not just for my kids, but for everybody's kids, if that makes any sense. But mostly for my kids too, because those are the ones you go and judge me on my kids. You know what I'm saying? It's like if my kids are fucking messing up, oh, I'm sorry, I
You
don't know if you
good.
okay. If my kids are out there causing problems, you gonna look at me. So I gotta make sure that it starts at home. But then beyond that, I want to model this for anybody else that might find benefit in it.
So, how has this show felt different than previous tours?
Well, the tour on a larger scale almost feels like a festival tour. We got, I mean, everybody on this bill is a headliner. Like all these people do their own tours. And so, generally in the past, I would bring out people that either I wanted to promote because Rhymesayers was working with them, and I was trying to use my platform to promote these younger artists or these new artists that were either affiliated with Rhymesayers or affiliated with Minneapolis. Like I always made a point, even if you weren't with Rhymesayers, if you were a Minneapolis group and you were killing it, I'm trying to bring you out because I'm trying to show people what Minneapolis has. You know what I'm saying? And so, and that's how I operated for decades. And so, just in the last little bit of time, I've been looking at like some of my peers and colleagues, and I'm like, yo, okay, how can we strengthen the overall network that we're all a part of? You know what I'm saying? And so I still want to do tours where I am bringing out people that maybe you never heard of, just so I could turn you on to something, because I do really enjoy being a part of that, that line of like, oh, I saw this person at an Atmosphere show and now I'm a huge fan of that person. Like I love being a part. That's how I know, even if I wasn't rapping, bro, I would still be trying to be involved, because my love really is like a DJ. DJs, if I could play a record that makes you move, then I'm doing my job. So whether that's my record or somebody else's record, that's what I love, right? And so I'll drive the truck if I have to. I'll drive the bus. I'll be the tour manager. Whatever it takes, man. I'll book the shows from a desk. I don't care. I just want to play a role in this. But this tour, and doing like in the summer, we went out with like Farside, Cypress Hill, Lupe Fiasco. These types of, I guess I'm gonna call them festival tours, have this vibe of like, it's reminding everybody the bigger picture here. Like all these artists, you may not have seen Kool Keith before, but you're familiar with his music. Well, here's an opportunity to see it. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's something about this that I feel like is not just about me helping a younger artist, not just about me and my ego or me trying to contribute, but there's a larger network here. And these are all colleagues that I'm friends with. And we are all out here trying to, speak, be heard at a time when I think people really need to hear some of these ideas and some of these concepts. And so I love this, bro. Like it's watching the audience from start to finish. You're seeing people who are like, yo, Ari the Rugged Man is my favorite rapper of all time. And now I finally get to see him in a big room with, you know what I mean? Like, it's like something about that, man. I'm really proud. I'm really proud of this tour. I'm really proud of how well it came together. I'm proud of every artist on this tour. I'm proud of every crew member, man. Even the crew that's working this tour is a really good one. It's almost bittersweet that we're halfway through, because that means now that we're working our way out. And I'm saying this tour could go for months. We could be out here for, we could do this for months. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is good.
Yeah, it's a fire show. It's a fire show. I would definitely recommend everybody to go get tickets to go see it if it's coming to your city. If you ain't stopped there yet, definitely check it out. So when you're on the road like you are, you said you was on the road this summer and now, how do you stay grounded while traveling?
Schedules. I stay on a sleep schedule. I stay on a food schedule. I have a certain amount of space that I use specifically to go to record stores and to dig. Even if I'm not buying nothing, just to touch records, and flip through records and look at records and learn, look at the back, see who played on it, like, so that's almost like that's like going to the library for me. That's like I'm going and I'm digging through resources and information, and sometimes I'm buying it. You know what I mean? Like, but I schedule everything, because that's a huge part. I've learned just from experience that is a huge part of staying grounded, is to have a dependable schedule so that your body, your brain, and your spirit can all align to remind you that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing right now, and it's like a mind trick you play on yourself. I be trying to teach this to my kids too. Like, you get on a schedule, obviously there's room for anything to happen, you know what I mean? Like, you can go off schedule when there's a reason to, but then you don't even, you look at that as like, well, that's just how this is going today. But when you have a schedule, there's just something about that really does align you with your life, with your walk, with your path. And so that's really big for me, I don't really party anymore. Back in the day on tour, I would, after the show is done, I would go to the after party, or, but now I'm up by 8:30 every morning, no matter where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I get my walking in, I get my workout in, I travel with resistance bands. So if I'm not in a hotel, I can just set up a little workout backstage in a room like this. I bring a little yoga mat. I try to keep everything moving, and everything on somewhat of a schedule, because then I know where I'm supposed to be, and I can feel when I'm not where I'm supposed to be, But I think that for me, that's a huge part of staying grounded. And it's really not that different from when I'm not on tour. I keep a similar schedule there too, aside from maybe, I don't get to necessarily go record shopping, but I still do the info. I still do the knowledge. I still do the resources. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's just going through my own records, or even if it's going through my books, or going through my kids' homework, you feel me? Like, there's still moments set aside to make sure that I am consuming information and critically thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's how I'm gonna avoid Alzheimer's. You feel me?
So that kind of goes into my next question. I was gonna say, how would you describe who you are off stage?
You've talked about coloring and dynamics.
I don't know if I'm allowed to describe that. That would be better for somebody else to, somebody close to me to describe me. But if I was,
One right after the other. What are some of the key elements there?
I guess I'm a Virgo through and through, man. I stay pretty organized. I keep my stuff pretty, it's not just schedules, but it's like, I keep things organized. I keep things tidy. But I'm also here for the work, even off stage. If something's happening, I'm here to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I don't know how to fix it, I know somebody who does. And if I don't know somebody who does, I'm gonna go to the internet and try to figure it out. And if I can't figure it out, then I'll call a professional. but first and foremost, I gotta try to fix it myself first. I gotta use my fingers and my hands and my muscles.
Okay. You said Virgo. Enough said. I already understand it. Okay, so you got a big fan base in the Midwest. And what aspect of the Midwest shaped your sound and perspective?
I guess, to answer that, that's a great question. One of the main things that shaped my sound and perspective about being from Minneapolis was just knowing that nobody was checking for it. Like even as a kid, I knew ain't nobody trying to hear a rapper out of Minneapolis. And accepting that was a big part of my drive to do this and execute this as independently as possible. Knowing that sending out demo tapes to random addresses in New York was not gonna work. However, dubbing my own tapes and selling them outside of the Lauryn Hill show to just random people, that's what worked. And seeing that in action helped me really kind of put together how I saw what my path was going to be. You know, you mix that with the winter that we have in Minneapolis. Winter allows for you to not go outside, which is a gift and a curse. Obviously, you want the vitamin D. Obviously, you want the exercise. But being stuck in the house or in the basement, which is how I grew up, was good for me in that it forced me to really just work on my craft. You know, it forced me to really learn how to study this art and how to create my own version. I didn't have a mentor. I couldn't just walk down the street and knock on large professor's door and have him show me how to use an MPC. You know, I hear all these stories from peers in New York about how they lived across the street from that guy, or how they would go to the park and watch this guy. And I didn't have none of that. We had very, very little that we could draw from in a mentorship way, because even the people I looked up to in my city when I was younger, you know, there was rappers, Almond Joy, there was the Style Posse, there was IRM, Kelsey. There were rappers that I grew up idolizing, but they were just trying to figure it out too, because they also didn't have any mentorship. Really, the main mentor any of us had was Prince, and none of us knew him, but we knew enough about him. We studied him enough to see what it was. And so for me, you know, having Prince be the beautiful elephant in the room was good, because it showed me that it's okay to just express yourself and be who you are, regardless of what the trends are. You know what I'm saying? That dude never followed any trends. He just did his own thing. And so when my music didn't sound like my heroes, I was okay with that, because I knew I don't have to emulate Mobb Deep. I don't have to emulate KRS-One. They're already in me. They're already a part of my DNA. I just have to figure out my voice. And that, I think a big part of that was because of Prince, just growing up in his backyard. So it's honestly, man, it's a blessing in hindsight. You know, in my teens and early 20s, it was a thorn in my side having to be in Minneapolis. But now looking back on it, I wouldn't trade that for nothing, because that was how and why I pushed as hard as I pushed. And also, we didn't have any entitlement. You know, I've met MCs from other parts of the country who grew up in the mecca of scenes. You know what I'm saying? New York, Atlanta, LA. And there's almost like it's a birthright. Oh, you from here? Then you're supposed to have a career. We didn't have that. We didn't have that birthright. We didn't have that entitlement. So we had to create it. We had to create a space for ourselves to feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. And I do believe in hindsight that is a huge part of how we've had the longevity that we've had, is that we never ever looked at this like it was owed to us, you know?
And I've seen footage of your grind too, like being from Ohio. I've seen footage of Scribble Jam, and a lot of my friends, when they found out I was interviewing you, wanted to know like about that time and how did that impact your journey on where you are now?
Scribble, I would say the main impact of Scribble for me was the friendships that I built via that event. I from going to that was able to become friends with Mr. Dibbs, with Gel, with Dose One, with you know, and then other people started showing up from Cali. That's how I kind of got to know some of the Freestyle Fellowship people, or I should say some of the Project Blowed people. Feel me? That's how I got to know more of like the New York underground, was because people were traveling. So it became this place for people to network and get to know each other and meet each other. And for me, that was tight, because every city has a scene, and in that scene, there's going to be little beefing and little idiosyncrasies of competition and all that. So when I got to meet people from other scenes where I didn't have a history, or we never tried to date the same person, or we never had to compete for an open mic or anything like that, then it's just, you just get to make friends based on the level of are you cool or not? Because we didn't have a history, you know, and that was huge for me. So the main thing for me for Scribble was, I think, the networking. And then also it was fun, man. It's great to go to like a festival or like a conference where everybody there is on the same shit. They're like-minded, and they might not be doing it the same way, but they're all trying to get to the same space. And so there's room to share information and to see and understand what other people's experiences are, so you can apply that information to yourself.
That's what's up. So we've got like a couple minutes left. It just told me. I think we probably got like 2 or 3 minutes left for recording. So I'm going to skip to the bottom of my questions. When you hear crowds rap your lyrics back to you, how does that feel?
I mean, the validation is huge. It's when people respond to something that you made when you was sitting in a basement with one other person, right? Me and Ant, just sitting in a basement making stuff. When you see strangers respond to that, it fills your cup, you know, your jar, your heart, whatever you want to call it. But also, I've traveled around it to get full circle with it and realize that it's not about me. These people and their connection to these songs, it's not about me any more than my connection to my favorite songs by Prince or my favorite songs by LL. You know, my connection to their music ain't about Prince. It's about me. I fell in love with that album because of who I was and where I was at the time that I heard that album. So when I see people connect to us, I reflect on that, and I make sure I understand this is their moment, and I have to treat it as such. I have to make sure that they are the star of the show in those moments, because this is their time. Because tomorrow night I'm gonna do it again somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Feel me? But I'm not gonna be here tonight. It's their turn, and it's them exercising their spirit, exercising their love, exercising how they feel about themselves, or how whatever their relationship is to music or to this song in particular, or, you know, being out and social, you know, and I think if artists remember that, if they remember like, yo, this is not about the person on the stage, it could be any of us. Anybody could be on a stage. Like, but that moment where you got a room full of people singing along with something, that's their moment. And you have to respect that. You have to give that to them. You have to acknowledge that with them and be in there with them. And so I'm not gonna say that I downplay the validation I feel, because I don't. It's very validating. It's beautiful. But also, I understand what's really going on here, and I try to make sure that I treat that accordingly and make sure that I'm there for those people to, you know, to be present in that moment with those people, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's what's up. Is there a song that feels like personal to you that you almost didn't even put out?
Oh man, a lot. You know, the thing with Ant, years and years ago, long time ago, anytime I was like, man, I don't know what to write about, he would say, well, then write about something you're not supposed to write about. And that's where I really tapped into my own voice. And this was probably, you know, 2001 when he told me this. I don't know where he got that from. I don't know if he made that up or if he heard that, you know, maybe he heard Marvin Gaye talking about that one day or something. I don't even know, bro. But I know that, and he might not even remember saying that to me, but that don't matter. He said it and it had an impact. And ever since then, I have made that my goal. Now to the point where it's not even when I'm having writer's block, because I don't even remember the last time I had writer's block. But now I go there first. I start trying to figure out, is there anything that I'm supposed to be doing right now that I'm forgetting to do? Or is there anything that I shouldn't be doing? What should I do? You know, and so that's where a lot of the really personal or transparent shit comes from. But also it's where a lot of the like horrible dad jokes come from, right? So it's like I'll have a song about having a crush on the woman that delivers my mail. Like what? You know what I'm saying? Or I'll have a song about, being in my middle age and still trying to have sex with my middle-aged wife. Feel me? Like it's like, because these are those moments that's not supposed to be a song. So that's why I'm gonna write that song. Because that song doesn't even exist. You know what I'm saying? So so let me bring it into existence, and I feel like weirdly I owe that to Ant, because he said some shit to me one time just to help me kind of get through writer's block.
Okay. Shout out to Ant, dropping gems. So, what era are you in right now? If you had to pick a theme song for this chapter of your life, what would it be?
Oof.
Tends to push the negative or the sad.
That's a good question.
Can be very depressed.
Just one song? Jeez.
You could do a soundtrack if you want to, whatever you feel.
Well, there's an album by Bruce Springsteen called Nebraska.
Okay.
And I've been in that era for probably about 10 years, maybe longer. Because it's a quiet album, and it's very, I guess it's all stories, but all the stories have this like underlying theme of a personal struggle, whether it be a personal struggle with authority or a personal struggle in a relationship or a personal struggle with yourself. And he's breaking through these struggles. And the point is that he's not just speaking about these struggles as, okay, so inside of pop culture, there's a lot of experiences, but not a lot of resolutions. So people will write about or even write to something flashy or edgy or exciting or sad, but they don't always remind you of the resolution. Specifically in hip hop, the concept of keeping it real became such a important point that we started to focus on that, and we stopped focusing on the results of keeping it real. And so I feel like resolution is something that, some of the greats have been able to touch. And when I say the greats, I'm gonna say like, Nas, Bob Marley, Tupac. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just a fantasy land. Somebody like Jay-Z just gave us a fantasy land. Oh, life is great and I'm doing this and my life is better than yours. Somebody like Prodigy from Mobb Deep gave us the opposite. He gave us like, yo, this is like hard. Life is not great. That's the opposite side. I want resolution. I want to hear, well, what happens if I decide to do that? Or what's going to happen if I decide not to do that, And I feel like that's the main thing about that Bruce Springsteen album that I keep coming back to, man, is that there is resolution for every decision that you make. There is, people want to say consequence. I don't like that word because it has always a negative connotation to it. Consequence sounds like, you're in trouble. You feel me? But consequences can sometimes be positive too. But the word resolution, I think, fits better. And to me, I think right now, that's where I'm at. And I know that like I make songs and the 15-year-olds ain't necessarily peeping it. So I'm not really speaking to the kids that probably could actually use my music to inform them, but I'm talking to their parents. And so maybe there's something in what I have to say that can help a parent talk to their kid. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's kind of how I see it at this point,
That's dope.
Because their parents are gonna be at my show tonight in St. Louis. They all got babysitters to come watch their badass kids while they come out to the show. Hopefully they'll take something home that'll help them have conversations with their little badass kids.
That's what's up. Slug love the kids.
You know, honestly, I love my kids.
You know
You
about
know,
everybody else's kids.
listen, man, I love everybody, right? You know what I'm saying? But I do hold people accountable. So
Hmm.
if you got some badass kids, I'm judging you. Like I said at the beginning, like if my kids do some bad shit, you're gonna judge me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Hmm.
yeah. So it is what it is, man. Raise your kids right, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. If somebody is seeing Atmosphere live for the first time on tour, what do you hope they walk away feeling?
I mean, I guess that's a great question. There's a lot to unpack there. But ultimately, craftsmanship. I want people to see the years and years that we have put into trying to be great at this. The years and years that Ant has put into the music that he creates. The years and years that I've put into writing and performing. Um, you know, I guess you call it showmanship, but I call it craftsmanship because I am not necessarily trying to create a spectacle. I'm instead trying to give you insight into how serious I take this, how much I love what I do, how much I love my job, how much I am, just what I put into this. Because to me, I'm gonna die at some point. Everybody does. And when I do, I don't need nobody to be like, yo, that one song that he did or that album or anything. Instead, I would rather they go, hey, man, this is a person who never stopped trying to grow, who never stopped trying to get better, who never stopped trying to get better at writing. People can argue about which album was the best or which one affected them the most. But when it comes to the arc of my craftsmanship, I don't want people to be able to argue about the fact that I continue to continue going upwards with my productivity and what it was that I was trying to accomplish. Back to that, I want to write the perfect song before I die. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is all a path towards trying to accomplish that goal.
Well, I definitely felt your craftsmanship when you was on that stage and seeing you work, and like I said, your consistency and just even your overall showmanship, how you engage with the audience. That's definitely felt. You as an MC, your craft, and that's what stood out the most to me, and how you made us feel. So we're wrapping up, but before we go, I just wanted to share that and be real and let you know I'm an independent artist myself, and you are the blueprint and somebody I look up to because you never lost your integrity. And I'm just putting it out there. I hope one day our paths cross and I'm able to, open up for you one day, like collaborate. I'm putting that out there either way. Thank you for this opportunity.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. That's very flattering that you would even be interested. So that means a lot to me, my man. And so I'm gonna keep my eye on you. I want to see where you go with this.
All
I
right.
appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to showcase me, man, and to showcase our work. It means a lot to us.
Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for atmosphere and everything.
Thank you, brother.